Hello, hello. This was supposed to have been a live stream, and technology did not cooperate with me today. So instead, I'm going to just tape my demo that I was going to have done on the live stream of these dancing cranes. And sorry for those of you that were hanging out and waiting for this live stream to go on. I don't know. I tested it last week, and it worked out fine. So this week I felt comfortable enough to share it in a newsletter and on Facebook and all this good stuff. And of course, then it doesn't work. I don't need that kind of stress. So I think I'll just let the live streams live for a little bit. And then instead I'll do my usual thing where I tape my demos and upload them on my YouTube channel. The reason I wanted to paint these cranes is, you know, a couple of years ago, I was in Denmark, which is where I'm from, and I have a good girlfriend there. She's Ellie is her name. She introduced me to bird watching many years ago when I lived in Denmark, and we've stayed friends all these years. And she had told me about this wonderful place up in Sweden where the cranes stop on their migration, and we arranged that whenever I was in Denmark at the right time of year, which would be in the spring, like March, April, we would go together and see these cranes. And we did. And it was a fabulous experience. It was at something called the Hornborgasjön in Sweden. And so there's about 20,000 of the European Sandhill Cranes that stop at this lake in Sweden, where they gather for rest and feeding and mating and all this good stuff. So they're having a huge powwow there for about a good month. And I have been wanting to paint from that experience for years now, ever since I went, and I've never done it. So now that I am housebound, more or less, or can't be in the classroom for a while, I'm going back over all these things that I have had on the back burner and wanted to get to painting, and the cranes were one of them. So you can see I still have all my wonderful brochures. And the most wonderful thing about being up there was we stayed at this really wonderful kind of sort of a bed and breakfast thing. And it was owned by, and still is, I'm sure, owned by an artist, a wonderful artist. So he had his big gallery there, and the food was fantastic. And I got to talk to him. He's, he does watercolors, and he also does others. This is like the brochure he has, and his name is Löfwings. And so it's very close to Hornborgasjön. And so we stayed there for 3 nights, I think it was, and it was just fabulous. And then on top of it, to get to see this wonderful art that he creates, of course inspired by the place he's living. It was just all around a fantastic experience. And really staying there, even though it was so nice, it wasn't very expensive either. Let's just say for Sweden and Denmark, which, they're not the cheapest places in the world. But anyway, so if you ever are going to Scandinavia at, March, April, you should go. And I know there's other places, in the world, including in the United States, where you can go and see the Sandhill Cranes. And actually here in California, I've been to see them several times by Lodi, Central California, where, they also winter. But they were not in these numbers. So anyway, there you have the backstory. And here is just one I practiced painting yesterday. And so I put 2, I just flipped them over. And so I put 2, they're dancing together. And you can do it like that. But today I was going to do a little bit of a bigger painting. I think it's better for the videos that they're not too tiny, so you can actually see better. And so here I took one of the cranes and blew it up a little bit. And then I did the silhouettes of 5 other cranes, uneven numbers, so always better, flying up. And then I put a big, it can be moon or sun, whatever you want it to be, in here in the corner. So they're kind of flying this way. And this one is ready to take off, I guess, after his or her friends. So that's what I came up with. And I think, I'm hoping this will turn out really nice. And I'll try not to erase too many of my lines so you can actually see where they are. And the first thing I'm going to do is I want to paint this crane first. And then I'll paint the background. And then when that is dry, we'll paint. These will just be silhouetted up against the light. They're backlit. So, and that's often how we see it. So let me just double check my settings here. And I think I have it zoomed in. So it's easier for you to see what I'm doing on this one here. And, the cranes, they look like this. So I did mask out. You can see they have like a white spot there. And then they have red, a little spot of red. And then they're kind of bluish gray. And there's a little bit of black on their wings when they fly. So that's what they look like. Here's some more. So you can just see. I just still have that in my head. That wonderful, and oh my gosh, 20,000 cranes make a lot of noise. Let me just tell you. See, there they are again. So, and that's that. And I'm sure if you go online and see, here is Löfwings, Göran Löfwing, Göran Löfwing. And then, both the O's have those 2 dots over them. That's Swedish for Ö. Göran Löfwing. And that there you can see that's one of his many interpretations. And I love his style. Anyway, I'm not Göran, I'm Eva. So we'll paint it Eva's way because that's the only way I can paint. All right. So I already got prepared with my colors. I have Cobalt blue out in a couple of puddles. I have French Ultramarine blue out in a couple of puddles. Here I have a little bit of the Peacock blue. I don't know if I'm going to use that. Here I have the burnt sienna to gray down the blues. And then here I have a mixture of the burnt sienna. Whoops, you couldn't see it. A mixture of the burnt sienna, that's burnt sienna, the burnt sienna and the French Ultramarine blue in kind of a blackish color. And then here I have a little bit of Quinacrodone red. And I'm thinking I should probably also have a little bit of a yellow out. So I think today I'll take the Quinacrodone gold. So that's a warmer yellow. And I think that'll be good. And while I'm at getting puddles out, maybe I should get a little bit more of the red, just in case. If something goes too green on me, like if I'm mixing the yellow with the blues, then I can also always throw in a little bit of red, and that, since they're complementary colors, that's going to tone it down. So there we have that. And then I'm just going to wet part of the crane. I think I'm going to start with the back wing. So I'm just going to put water on the back wing here. And this, they have these, they're big birds. And to me, they're just, the sound of them especially is just prehistoric somehow. I just love it. I love bird watching. I'm not nearly, I'm just, your amateur. My friend Ellie, she's a serious bird watcher. And she runs programs in Denmark for the Ornithological Association, and she's involved in all that. And you know, she teaches every winter. They have like programs, bird watching programs, and she's out there watching birds all the time. She'll drive far if she hears. She's on, you know, bird watchers, if they're really serious, I mean, they mean business, and they'll travel far and wide if they hear that an unusual bird has been spotted somewhere. And Ellie is definitely part of that gang that just will hop in the car, pack their cameras and binoculars, and off they go. And she takes wonderful, wonderful photos that she posts on Facebook. And her husband, they live right next to Denmark's national park up in a part of the country called Thy, T-H-Y. And they planted their own forest. I think they planted like 8,000 trees. Can you believe it? And that's a lot of work to keep them alive. And so they, you know, and so now that's probably about maybe 6 or 7 years ago now. So they're attracting a lot of different wildlife, which is part of it, and bird life and all that stuff. So when they have cameras set up and stuff so they can see what's happening out there, it's just so cool. I always try to make sure that I have time to visit them whenever I go to Denmark. So, and I haven't been for a couple of years. That's the longest time I haven't been in Denmark. So I think I'm getting kind of homesick for a Denmark trip. So I'm thinking probably I'll go sometime. So what I did here is I took my cobalt blue and I grayed it down with a little bit of the burnt sienna. You know, burnt sienna is my go-to color to gray down French ultramarine blue and cobalt blue. And since I want just a light bluish gray here on the wings to start out, I am going to just run that in a little bit here on the edge, a little bit darker right here on the edge, and then down to here. And then there's a little bit of a white edge from that front wing, so I'm going to try and leave a little bit of that. And then I rinsed out my brush, and now I'm just going to go in and pull this color out. And down here, gets lighter. You know, we can always darken, so, you know, don't go too dark to start with. So keep it nice and light. And then the wings, there, the wing feathers here, I put a little bit of color on the top part. And then rinse out my brush. And the beauty of using the cobalt blue and the burnt sienna is they kind of separate a little bit. So I get you know, a little variety in my colors. And then I'm going to go down here, skip that other one, go down here, put a little bit of that same color on, and again pull it out, and then here pull it out like this. We can always separate more later. That's, you know, how it goes. And then I'll do a little bit on here. Is my head in the way? I don't think so. All right. And so I just keep it really light. And I'm just trying to see if I can get a little bit of definition on these wing feathers to start out. We can always go in, remember that. We can always go in and do more. So don't go crazy here. And you can see I skip a little bit. That one was a little bit darker. Go back in. And then here. Like that. So I'm going to hold it up so you can see. So I start very, very light. And that's that for now, I think. Well, so I think I might go in and just do a little bit of that peacock I have here, just so I get a little bit of a different tone value, temperature on. And then let's go in and do a little bit here. Just put a little bit of color in there, and I could put a little bit more up here. It's still wet, so just like that. See that? You have to remember these are feathers, so maybe a little bit in here, like that. Just, remember, again, this is not for, the bird watching book. This is an artistic interpretation. And now I think I will have to probably wait a little bit before I do anything. And so we can paint the legs. Those are super easy. Let's go and find a smaller brush for that. I think I'll go with this one, number 4, round. And I had my little mixture up here that I had already, that's actually, it's leftovers from when I painted my little test painting of the crane here, just so you can see where we're going. So you can see we painted the first part here, and then, we're going to go in with a really dark color there. And then the legs are dark. And then, of course, the neck. So go in with most of the light colors first, except the legs here, they're dark. So I think I'll go in dry, and then I better be ready with another brush so I don't get like a hard line, because I don't really want that. And then I'm going to go in with a damp brush and just kind of spread that color out. So I put the darkness on the front of the leg, because I want that back part to be a bit lighter, because then the leg behind it is going to be really dark. And that's why I'm doing it this way. And again, artistic interpretation, that's what we're after. And let's just spread that out before it dries too much. Put a little bit of water in there. It's going to make it spread more. And maybe I'll even go in and do a little bit of the burnt sienna on the tip of my brush here. Warm it up a little bit. Again, of course, this is the front leg. And then this one, it's, they have their feet there. And we're not going to do too much with that. Just kind of let it like that. And put a little bit of that brown in, maybe here. I missed a little bit here. Okay. And like that, a little bit darker there. So there you can see that's one leg. We can always fine tune it if need be. I think that's good enough. Like that. Okay, so now I'm feeling we can probably get to the other part of the bird. So that would be the wing and the head and the whole thing there. I just start out light, and we want to save up here. Of course, that is red, and then we're just going to give it a little bit of color on the beak. So first things first, let's just wet the birdie where we want to put color on. So underneath the wing here, that's going to be very dark, that part. And so we're also thinking about light against dark, dark against light. So a little bit of water here in the beak and down the neck. And here. And down this leg, and then here there's this little tail, and there is a little bit of distance between the wing and the rump, so I want to remember that. I kind of forgot about that in this one here. There's not very much space, but it doesn't matter. But and actually, I'll let that sink in a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with my dark, put a little bit more of the French Ultramarine in. And I think I want to try and see, I don't know if it's still a little wet here. I can go in with that darkness here. That's those dark wings. What I would like is, if I could get a little bit, it might have been too late for that. If I could get a little bit of bleeding in, and let's put a little bit of the burnt sienna in so it doesn't look so blue. And again, you know what, I always like to have my colors just kind of mix and mingle a little bit on the paper. I think that looks more interesting. So I don't want it to look too brown, because they really don't look brown. So I'm just dabbing some more of the French Ultramarine blue in. And then turning my paper a little bit, and so I can get some of these nice little feathery looking shapes in the edge there. And the same here. And get some wings, wing feather shapes. Just dab some more blue in there. So you see I'm doing like this, and then I'm kind of lifting it up to see if I can get some of those shapes in. Connect there. And I think I'm going to take another brush and then just damp. And let's see if we can get a little bit of a softer edge some places here. Not wet, just damp. And this actually goes dark all the way here. And I might use my little brush to get some of these feathery shapes. There. Let's take a look. Little too much hard edged here. Just soften it up. And maybe dab a little bit here. Yeah. There we go. Okay, so in the meantime, This is probably dried on me. That's fine. I'm just looking at that wing shape again. Just fine tuning. There. I think that's better. Can you see? Whoops. Yeah. And then up here, actually, see, it kind of outlines that feather here. There. There we have it. And just dab in a little bit more color. But I like, again, you can kind of see how it separates a little bit. And it just gives it a little bit more of an interesting look as it dries. The French Ultramarine blue and the burnt sienna, they kind of separate a little bit. And now I'm just thinking about thirsty brush, and maybe it would be a good idea if I could just lift out a couple of little highlights there. They'll run together a little bit, but get a little bit of a feeling of the light kind of shining through a couple of places on these feathers. Yeah. There we go. Okay, I won't mess around with that anymore. And back to the body. And the underwing. So I already have a little bit of color on. That's okay. That way you can see where I'm putting this. So I'm not putting water where the red is. And I masked out the white, so I don't have to worry about that. And there's the underwing. And there'll be a little bit of a white edge on that. Right there. So I left a little space. And then down here. And then it goes across here. And then this, on this bird, I want to remember that I actually have space in between the wing and the top of the rump. There. Okay, so now you can kind of see where I put the water on. And I am going to have that very light color. Cobalt blue, that's grayed down with a little bit. And I can even put a little bit of this more turquoisey color in. And lots of water, because I really want to keep it light to start out. Under the wing here is very dark, actually, and then the neck is dark up to about here. And then it's quite light here on the front. And then under the rump, it's a little bit darker. Here it's a little bit darker. So then I'm turning my paper so that I can get that stroke that I'm after, because again, you know, it's feathers. And I dipped into a little bit of the dark. I'm going to run that in while it's still damp, so I get a little bit of mixing and mingling. And then rinse my brush out. And then it goes down there. And it'll be a little bit darker. So now I'm going to go over in this puddle here. Be a little bit darker here. And I'm doing a little bit of darkness here. There. There's that. There. And I'd like to have a little light here, so I'm going to see if I can lift out a little bit with a thirsty brush, which is a brush that's clean, whoops, and damp. Just a little bit. And on this particular bird, we'll have a little bit of a darker tone on the wing up under here. And again, I'm trying to see if I can leave that little bit of a light edge. So it goes all the way down like this. And then I'm going to go in and do that. And there's those feathers that we can see. I kind of drew them out a little bit. And here I'm going to just soften this edge. And it's softening by itself down there, so that's great. And I'll pull that up around like that. Lift out a little bit here. Like that. Like that. And then I'm going to go in a little bit lighter puddles. And not too much water on, so it doesn't, I don't want it to spread too much. And right around, like maybe here, there's a little bit of that kind of a feeling going on. See that curve there that I did? And then I want to soften that a little bit on this side here into those feathers. And pull down a little tiny bit on this side. And I'm pulling in a little bit like that. And again, remember, we don't have to get the whole thing painted now. We just want to kind of indicate some of these things. And I think I want to kind of pull that down a little bit. Like that. Kind of indicate, wing versus body. And then here, let's go in, see if we can kind of not have that too hard edged. There. Lifting up just a little bit. There. So this is what it looks like for now. And this is going to be a lot darker, but a little at a time. And then we can go in, and I want to get that beak in. And I think I better get a smaller brush. All right, so I grabbed my number 4 brush again, and I just made a bigger puddle of the dark of the French Ultramarine blue and the burnt sienna. It's more on the blue side, so I have a little bit of the burnt sienna over here to kind of vary the warmth / coolness of my dark here. And let's see. So what I'm going to start out with is, see if I can get to it. without having my hand block what you're seeing. It's not going too dark. Good point on my brush, and make sure it's not too wet. And then I'm going to go in at the underside of this beak and down the neck here. And right away I'm going to grab another brush and I'm going to just soften that there. And it's going to be really dark. So a little bit further out here. A little bit darker at the underside of the beak is what I want. And it has a little bit of darkness around here. And then, you know, don't have to worry about the white because it masks that out. And then really dark here, so dab in some more color. And down the neck. And it goes to about there. And it's dark on the other side too. And put a little bit of that blue in, French ultramarine blue I'm talking about. And then it goes like this. And then I'm going to take a damp brush and just kind of pull out that color a little bit here. Just, you know, I don't want a hard edge there. Just down to there. And pull that out a little bit more, like that. Dab in, like that. I think that's pretty good. And then, let's see, the other beak. Let's get a little bit of that dark color and then get a little bit of more burnt sienna and soften it out. There we have it. And that darkness goes actually around here and in here. Want it a little darker down here. There. And like that. And then rinse out my brush, and now I'm going to get into my Quinacrodone red, which is about the right color red. Want it a little thicker, not so watery. Dab, 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 and I'm still with my number 4 brush, and I want to get that red on. So I'm going to turn it around so I don't get my hand across the bird. I flip my paintings around all the time. Those of you that watch my classes, you know that I do that. And I know for some of you YouTuber watchers, you find it really annoying that I do that, but it's, I mean, I'm sorry, it's part of my painting style. So I can't really do anything about that, because otherwise I end up having my hand across here. You know, you won't be able to see what I'm doing. So I think it's better to turn it around. It's better for me, so I don't have to hold my hand in some weird position. And so I'm dabbing in some more of this red. Because it's really bright, you can really see it on these birds. And then you can see I left a white spot at the top. You see that? And that's because, you know, the light is going to catch that a little bit. So I wanted to just pull that red out. so it's a little bit lighter. There, and it connects to here. There we have it. There, like that. Can you see it? There you go. All right. Might even put a little bit of that red in here. I don't know why. I just feel like it. Just a hint. There. I like it. That was just artistic license at work. Okie dokie. And I did lose a little bit of, they have, its beak is a little open. I think I might have to go in with a white gel pen to just kind of recoup that, but I'm not going to worry about it now. We can paint that dark back leg. So that one I wanted a little bit darker and cooler than the front leg because, you know, I want to say it's behind there. And I'm going to do it on dry, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and see if I can get a little bit of a wispy, whoops, that was a little too far, wispy effects. A bit darker here. Now I'm going to rinse out my brush a little bit and pull it down. And it goes behind, and this is where I want it darker. It goes behind that front leg. There. I feel that I got that a little too dark here, so before it dries completely I'm just going to soften it out. There. You see that? That's nice. And there. And I'm going to rinse out my brush before this dries on me, and then I'm just going to let that kind of be like this. You don't, you know, we're not about to tell too much about the feet down here. We just want to, so I let them kind of fade out a little bit, just like that. Fix that other leg a little bit while I'm at it. I think this is just like that. I think this is pretty good. Has a little kink where I don't want it to have a kink here. There, straighten it out. There. The key is to not mess around with that too much. That looks fine to me. Alrighty. So, got that. Got that. Now let's try and see if we can get those feathers here. I would like to put a little bit more emphasis on those without going overboard. So I'm going to mix myself a little bit of blue-gray with a cobalt blue and the burnt sienna gray down. Roll my little brush here so I can get a good tip on it, and then have another brush on standby, clean, damp, and then let's try and see if we can kind of indicate a little bit these feathers. So do that little bit of a outline of it, and then I go in with this brush to kind of loose the edge a little bit. So let's do that again, like that, and then let's loose the edge underneath it. And I can dab in a little bit more here. rinse out this brush. Put a little bit more water on this one, so a little bit of a thinner mixture, and then I roll it. So I want to make sure I have a really good tip, and then like that. Loose the edge. There. Yeah, like that. That works pretty okay, I think. There. And one more here. And then a couple of like that. Get a little bit of a curve on there. Get a little bit of a curve on there. Like that. Can you see how that kind of gives it a little bit more shape? Right now I'm just messing with it a little bit. I think I need where it needs a little bit more emphasis maybe. And this is just fiddly little stuff. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. And then I do feel that that one has, yeah, I got that. Put a little bit more emphasis on here. It's like it has that little bit of a, you know, the lead, I guess. And then maybe a little bit right here. How about that? There. Alrighty. And while I have this color on, I do think I want to give this here a little bit for color, and so lots and lots of soft edges, and then I want to go in and do a little bit here, just to a little texture, I guess you can say, to just kind of indicate that we can see a little bit of the feathers. And that little rump of his is also a little bit darker. So here I go again, turning my paper. But that's again because, you know, I turn my paper so I can get some, as easy as possible, brush strokes. So I'm just with a fairly dry brush and a little bit of this color on that I use for this shadow. I'm just kind of doing some little markings that gives a little bit more dimension on the rump, and kind of also says a little bit about how the feathers are. And it's a little bit darker underneath there. Oops, there, you see it. And feeling that like there should be a little darker. There. What do you think? Yeah, I like that. Okay. So now we're coming to the more dark of the feathers. I think I'll probably use this here, my number 8, and a little bit of water on it, and then this dark color, French Ultramarine blue, and burnt sienna. And I'll start here, and with, you know, quite wet paint, because my hope is that it won't dry on me right away, because I want to be able to pull it out. So it's really dark, the wing's really dark here. underneath it has like black wingtips here, like you can see over there. This is just a different view. So there we have that. Rinse it out, dab dab, and right away I want to go in and loosen that edge before it dries on me. And there we go. Go back in, put some more dark in here. And it's really dark down here. There. And then I'm going to rinse it out. And then I'm going to, with a damp brush, just kind of soften those lines. And then clean my brush again. And see, then I can go in and kind of drag it all the way to the end of these little feathers that we marked out earlier. I really like that. I think that looks good. What do you think? Looks pretty good. Yeah. Okay, so we've got the legs. We got those. Oh, there's an area here that needs to be a little bit darker. So again, I think I'll go with a little bit more of a turquoisey color. Not that turquoisey. Let's see some more of the cobalt blue. I'm just searching for the right color here. You know that peacock blue goes green so easily. What was it I said to you? Goes to green. Let's put a little red in it. Yeah, that's more like it. A little bit like that. I like that. That's kind of a good color. Dab dab. And so here, I'll put a little bit of that in here. And then right away soften it out. And I want that color, that's a good color, I kind of like it. So I want a little bit more up here, especially here. And again, soften the edge, soften the edge, soften the edge. And it'd be nice if I had a little bit more darkness right here, because that other front wing has this slight edge that I want to bring out. So here I'm thinking light against dark, dark against light. That's my thought. There's that. And then slight. And I like what we have going on here. There's that. Okay. I'm kind of thinking I need to put a little bit more emphasis on these feathers. And right there I think I need to lift out. There. And then let's give these here a little bit more oomph. And make them look more feather-like. Like this. And this one. And you can see I'm softening the edges. Oh, oops, you can't see, can you? Now you can see. I might even zoom in a little bit. Let's see. That's out. Let me try and stay in focus here. So I'm just trying to split up these feathers a little bit more. This one would be a little darker here. And this one can be a little darker out there. This one a little darker in here. And this one also needs a little darkness right there. And right here underneath. That's one line I don't like, that's this one here. I needed to soften that a little bit more. Okay, getting a little braver here. A little bit more colour on. There. Can't be too wimpy about this. And there's actually an edge there. There's a little gap between the feathers. Okay. This one also needs to be, let's see if we can soften that a little bit. There. Here. And let's try and split that one up a little bit. Let's see, how does that look? Yeah, looks pretty okay. So I want to do this one a little darker. There you go. See if anything looks weird. I think that's okay. And I do think I need to just darken here a little bit to bring that white edge out on the wing. There. And then we have I think I want to indicate another, there's kind of like a row of little feathers that go this way. There's this kind of a shape, you know, kind of like where that bone that holds the wings. Like that. Maybe even one more like that. Okay, then we have that top part of the wing. I might want to go in with just a little bit of my, let's see if it's dry, get a little bit of those pencil lines here. There we go. There. Okay, so we're going to wet that part of the wing. I think I'll just stick with my number 8. Don't want it dripping wet, and I don't want any of those drops on the ferrule here. That's going to drip down in the wrong place. So a little bit of water on here. And just out towards the end, down here a little bit. Can you see where I put the water on? There. And then let's go with that color again. I kind of like that. And put a little bit right on that edge here. A little bit up. And more there. And stop here. Dab, dab, dab. And then I rinse out my brush and I pull it down so it becomes lighter and lighter and lighter. There, there. And then, while it's still wet, I pull it out towards those feathers that are out here. It's like those feathers, just at a different, position, from a different angle we're seeing them. So that's pretty much it on those. And then I need to let it dry just a little bit, and then I'm going to go in and define. Maybe I want to even lift out a little bit more, so there's kind of a highlight on that wing there, like that. Again, dark against light, light against dark. While that dries a little bit, why don't we just pick off the masking fluid here, so we can finish off in the head. So you know how it is with masking fluid, even though I put it on with the PBO high precision masking fluid marker that I like to use. Just I have noticed you got to be careful that you don't press down to get it flowing on your watercolor paper, so you don't damage your paper. I do that like on my board or something. And you can see there's always fixing that needs to be done when we are when we're taking masking fluid off. Of course, I don't know, it just never is perfect. And so then I looked at the bird here. So you can see it actually has almost like a red eye. I don't know if you can see that. And the eye is in the white. I need to just fix the red part and the dark part a little bit to fix that white space. So I'm just going to go in with a little bit of red on my number 4 brush. And just fix that shape a little bit. And then I'm going to go in with the dark. Might actually not even rinse off my brush. And just go in and fix whatever needs to be fixed there. Not much. There. And then I think, there's a limit to how much you can see of the eyes, of course, but I do want to put in an eye. Just a little bit more on the orangey side, so it's it's basically right there. That's where the eye is. Like that. On the smaller ones I painted, I didn't put an eye in yet. I actually thought it was out here, but whatever. On the small ones you can't see too much anyway. So I started out with doing it like that, and then I'm going to let it dry for just a second. And actually while I do that, I don't really want the white to be that bright white. So I'm just going to go in with barely any color on, and I'm going to go down here from here and then up here, and then I'm going to rinse out my brush, and I'm just taking that white down just a notch. Just a notch. There. And let's see, I think this might have dried enough. Take the water out of my brush, have super duper dry paint, dark paint on. So I'll go into my puddle over here. Can actually go in here even. Get a little bit more of that. There. See how dry it is? And I kind of roll my brush again. You can even take a smaller brush. This is my number 4. You can take a smaller brush if you're feeling insecure about this. And then I'm going to go in and put that dark in. And I think I am going to leave just a little bit of a white sparkle there. Like that. And let's see, dab out a little bit here. There. I think that's okay. And if it's too big, it might be borderline too big, I'm just going to use a white gel pen to make it a little bit smaller on this side here. There. Let's not go too crazy with that. And feel I need to do a little bit more definition on the wing tips here. Just taking my lines out. So rinse out my number 4 brush and get it into this puddle that I used for that. And then I think I want to go in and just do a couple like this. Rinse it out. Soften the edges. Do a few more. Just do a little at a time. Don't go overboard. And rinse it out and soften the edges. And let's see. I want to soften it a little bit more. I think I want to darken just this area just a little bit. Get a little bit more shape on it. Maybe even like a little bit like there. Like that. And then just loosen this edge. There. And instead of using a white gel pen, I think I'll use some of my white paint. So I'm going to use a little bit of that aqua cover from Creative Mark. Liquid watercolor paper is what it's called. Rinse my brush out. Just putting a little bit of that on the tip of my brush. Just want to make this eye a little bit smaller. I got a little carried away there. There we go. There, that's much better. It's more in proportion. And then, since I have that on, I want to make that lower beak a little bit smaller. The good thing about this aqua cover is it's tinted to be the same color as my watercolor paper. I'm painting on Arches Bright White, cold pressed, and this is tinted to be the same color as Arches Bright White. You can get it, I think, in a couple of different tints depending on what. There's bright white and then there's natural. There we go, now we're getting better. That's what I wanted. Just thought that beak had gotten a little bit away from me. You see that? Better. And they, you know, they're busy dancing and saying stuff to each other, so they usually have open beaks. I mean, I think this one is pretty close to painted. Yeah, I can't think of anything else to do to it right now, and if that's the case, then we leave it alone, because otherwise we start messing it up. So I'm going to just let that dry completely, and then I'm going to see if I can erase some of the lines, and then we're going to work on the background. The birds are going to be silhouetted, they're going to be dark. And I'm kind of thinking of having the little bit of that red from his head. I'm thinking I want kind of like a warm glow on the moon or sun, and then kind of have it be more neutral as it goes out of the picture. And then we're going to have, you know, dusk coming in. I don't want it too dark because, you know, I want the dark of the bird to stand out. And you can see here the interpretation by Göran Löfwing. It's that, you know, there's lots of mist and rainy weather and that kind of stuff going on in this area, and especially that time of year, March, April, you know, early spring. So I want to keep that in my painting. So I thought a little bit about my colors, and I don't want them super dark because I want the darks to stand out, and I want them a little bit of a different color than my lighter colors on the bird, but I don't want anything that is super, you know, colorful, because that's not, you know, what this area looks like. And obviously I don't want it too dark, so because these birds are going to be very dark. So what I did was I just sprayed water in all the puddles I had, and I created some kind of purpley colors because I put some of the red in my French ultramarine blue and in my cobalt blue, and you can see it's very watery. And then with the peacock blue, I used some of my burnt sienna. I have some burnt sienna here, to create kind of a soft green color. I have some dark here that, you know, I can put some more water in. So I'm thinking I'll wet the whole thing minus the setting or rising sun. I think I'll call it a rising sun, rising or setting sun. It's misty, so it's not going to be bright. But that way, you know, I wanted to put some like red / a little bit of orange in, but not too bright, because it's all that misty feel. Again, I'm kind of thinking a little bit about how Göran, he interprets a lot of those, because you see most of the cranes, I mean, the most activity you see in at sunrise and at dusk, you know. So I want to get that feel, and it's very wet. It's kind of swampy land, and lots of rain, especially that time of year. So that's what I want. So that means that we have to first wet everything. Oh, and I'm thinking I'm going to throw some salt on to get a little bit, and not all over. I'm thinking like down here, kind of where land and sky meets, to just get a little bit of something going on there without it being, you know, too pronounced, because it can also be frosty. It wasn't when I was there, but it can also be very frosty at that time. So let's just get some water on, and that's going to take me a little while to wet this whole thing thoroughly. I'll have to go over it several times and be kind of careful where I put my water, because I want to put it around what I decided is going to be the sun. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to turn on the camera again, because that's going to take me a little while, and it's going to be super boring. Okay, everything is super duper wet, and I'm going to waste no time. I'm going to start in some of my green puddles here and get some of that going up here at the bottom. And I'm not so worried about painting over the legs of the bird up here. There we go. And some more in the corners here. And in here. There. That's okay. Let's get a little bit more going here, a little bit darker. And we can also do a little bit of the brown, which is the bird Sienna, because it's still so early spring. Not much is covering the ground yet, so you see the ground in between. And let me clean my brush, and I'm using my big old 1.5 inch brush. Holds a lot of water. It's my wash brush. And then let's go in and put some of that purpley color in. And all soft edges. And up here it'll be a little darker. Away from the light. Get those connected. Get some of that in here. You can see everything's very, very wet. And I want to get some of that down here too. In between here. Make sure I get that outline good. There's that. And I'm going to go in with one of my little bit smaller brushes to catch, like in here. Just don't want any white outline around the bird down here. And since everything's so wet, I should be able to get in there. And get out again, and no hard lines. It's too blue. Spread the love around. Go in here. And then I want to make sure I don't have like one color on one side and another color on the opposite side. You know, everything has to kind of be, you know, kind of bookended so that you don't have one color on one side of a wing and then another color on the other side of the wing, so that it looks like the bird is somehow a border or something. You want to make sure that it looks like actually background. So let's get this color on this side, this color on that side, so that it's all flowing together. Make sure here, got everything. Just want a little bit more of that purple here. Okay. How does that look? I think we're kind of okay. And now comes the time to throw some salt on. Let's see. Yeah, it's good. I think it's good. Something a little bit darker right down here. Shadow will go this way. And a little bit darkness here. And then again, let's go a little darker here. There we go. And let's throw some salt on. Want salt down here. Just at the bottom part here. There. And then we can tip it. Wipe just the edges here, just so we don't get any runbacks. Everywhere here. I have kind of like a rough edge, so I want to make sure I don't get any runbacks. And then I'll hold it down like this just a little bit. Gravity can do a little something for me. And you know, I can always go in if I feel I need it later. I can always go in and darken down there and stuff. You know, you can always darken. Hard thing is to lighten. And let me just soften the edge here a little bit. Put something running in there, that's fine. That out. And I grab a clean tissue. just to lift out here. I don't want like a hard edge inside the shape. There's going to be a hard edge. I'd prefer it to be right where I have my line. So if we can make that happen, that would be good. So this is going to be hopefully a very atmospheric painting, capturing that magic. And there, a little bit more salt. Just a little bit higher there. And then I just have to let it dry, be patient, and hope that everything works. All right, everything has dried, or almost dried enough. And I like the salt action that I got, and I'm happy that I put it just kind of like on the bottom part of it. And now I mixed up my puddles already. So I got Quinacrodone red, I got a little puddle of Quinacrodone gold, and then here I got a mixture of Quinacrodone red and Quinacrodone gold. So those are going to be my colors for the sun. And first I'm going to wet it. So I'm going to take my big number 30 brush and do that. And again, as you know, we're not going to worry about the birds. They're going to be very dark. And so I'm just going around with clean water and then just wetting inside. There we have that. And I think I'm going to work with my Quinacrodone gold first. Just put that out on the edge here. Like that. And then I'm going to go into my mixture which is the Quinacrodone red and the Quinacrodone gold together. I'm going to bring that around. And now I'm going to go in. I'm not rinsing out my brush in between going into the red. And just putting that on. And some more of the red out here. And some more of the orange. And let's see. I think I'm going to rinse out my brush. And just make sure that the colors spread in a somewhat even manner. That my circle is good and round. I used a plate from the kitchen to draw my circle. I kind of like that. I think we're good with that. Gonna put a little bit more of that yellow in here, just so it doesn't get too pale. Hopefully everything will mix and mingle in a nice manner. Just going to leave it to its own devices and hope for the best. I think that looks kind of nice. And now we've got to let it dry. And then we're going to put the dark birds in, and then we're probably going to do a little fixing on the big crane here, just to make it stand out a little bit more. All right, my sun is dry. I'm okay with it for right now anyway, and I want to put those dark birds in before I start tinkering with this one here. I'm already thinking I need to fix a little bit with the you know, with the legs, I think, you know, I have that orange red here, and I do have a little bit of that red up here on his head, but I feel I need a repeat somewhere, and I'm thinking I can put a little bit of red into the legs maybe. I'm not so concerned about if that's actually what they look like. So let's get those distant birds in. So we want to use a thick mixture of a dark color. I think I have too much water in all of them. So just get some thick French ultramarine blue, and then we'll put it over in that more dry puddle of burnt sienna. There we are. That's the dark I'm looking for. And I'll zoom in a little bit again so you can see the birds better. And again, I'll have to turn it around. Hopefully that doesn't bother anybody too much. And I think I'll go in on dry. And I have my little number 4 brush loaded with pigment, combination of French ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. There's the legs. So they fly with these outstretched legs, and then their necks are also stretched out. They're quite big. They are bigger than like a blue heron, for instance, just so you can get an idea. And here's the outstretched head. And you can Google, you know, to see, there's plenty of pictures online of these cranes in flight, so you can kind of see different silhouettes of them when they're flying, like here, backlit. I think that's about good. There's one. And we'll continue. Do this other one. That's a little bit of the wing in front of the sun. Then the head is here where the wing is, so can't really see it. The danger is to put too much detail in things like this. Just as long as you can get the silhouettes looking right. Here I go, turning again. I hope you can see it. That's the main thing. And then we go out here. And if I can get a little bit of that, whoops, you can't see when I do it like that. Let's zoom out a little bit more, just so I don't disappear on you. The wings at the end there, you can see a little bit as if, you know, flapping through the air. These outer long feathers, they kind of come apart a little bit, kind of like there. Can you see that? That looks good if you can get that in. All right. See, we have this one here. Load up my brush again. And there we can see a little bit of the head. And then the wings. So I'm using a number 4 brush with a good tip on it. So whatever brush you feel comfortable with, and load it up with a lot of pigment. so we don't run out. We don't want any hard lines inside here. The birds, if we can help it. And go body, tail, and then these long legs that they have. And then here, that wing goes like that. And there again, once I get up to the tip of the wings, I want to see if I can kind of get a little bit of that feathery look by doing some little strokes. Like that. So far so good, and I really like, I was hoping that, I have a few dark areas here that these birds would kind of pick up on that, and so your eye kind of have something to follow, so there's a path through the painting. That's kind of like what I was hoping for, and it looks like that's working out pretty okay. So let's move along here. Just getting some more of that dark. I have to make sure that it's not too watery, because I don't really want to have to paint those birds more than once. And then here we have this wing here. And this one, I think I want to paint this back wing like this. And again. And there's a little bit of the wing showing up on this other side of the head. And so I think I want to let that dry first so I can give the head a bit of a different color. A little bit lighter. This one here. And here's the other wing. And again, let's do some of these strokes. Going like that. Feeling that my color is a little on the wimpy side now. Find something nice. Concentrated. Run it in. And get the legs sticking out like that. Body. Body. And then we're coming up here. So that's where I want to see if I can do a little something. So even if I can do a little like that. Just a little something there. I like it. Can you see? Again, not too much detail, but this is just enough to kind of differentiate. There. And we have one more birdie left. And it's this one here. And again, there we have a head, comma. So you can see here, I just finished up all the cranes in silhouette. They look like cranes to me. And let's zoom out so we can kind of see the whole painting. And so what I'm thinking, we need something a little bit darker down here, so that we want to give this bird that cast shadow. And then I also feel that I will go in and just lift out a little bit here. And then I'll put a little bit of that orangey color in here. Just a hint. And you don't want to attract like too much attention to these legs of theirs, but just a hint to have a little bit more of that color going on. And then we want something dark. So again, I'm just going around in the little puddles there. And I'm going to zoom in again. Push it up so you can see. And then right underneath here, soften the edges there. And soften the edges here too. Because you know it's falling on the ground, and might even give it a couple of little sprays like that. And let me zoom in so you can see those birds that I painted in. Oops. See, like that. Now I'll take a photo of the whole painting and post it at the the end of this video so you can really see it. So, but I think I'll call this done for now. I'm going to have to look at it for, I usually have to look at my paintings for a little while. I'll pop it up and look at it tonight, and then I'll look at it tomorrow morning and do last little fixes if I feel I need to. I mean, there's little things like here. I have little, imperfections. I'm going to take care of them. Some white sparkle where it doesn't belong, that kind of stuff. And that's super boring for you guys to watch. So I took a look at my painting today, which is the next day. And I realized that I really, really did not think that I had unity and balance in that painting. And I didn't feel that the focal point or the focal area, which is the crane, really stood out the way I wanted it to because of that orange sun. So if you're painting this yourself, and if I'm painting it again, I might try and do more of bluish moon shape. However, since this is what I had, I decided to wet the bottom, and as you saw, I used my spray bottle. Sorry, my head is in the way there. Used my spray bottle to make sure that the ends of where I had all that salt effect doesn't have all hard edges. So I want to have that as very soft, organic feel. And so I use my spray bottle again to spray into it to get that kind of lacy effect. And that way it kind of reads like it's the kind of like the weeds and stuff from the fields that the cranes are dancing on. And I'm using the same colors that I have in the sun to kind of unify it and get that color repeated somewhere else, just not as bright. And I think since that's what I ended up with, it's a good choice for this particular painting. But if I paint it again, I think I'll try and come up with a different background, not so bright of the sun, and have a little bit more unity. And you can see here, I didn't put a horizon really in or anything like that, because it's so misty around this lake that I felt I didn't want to have that. And I think getting that warm color down there around the main character, the big crane. And you can see I'm using a little bit brighter color around the crane. And that way I get more of that light against dark, dark against light to bring out the crane more, and also a temperature difference. Crane is cool colors, and then that background, foreground slash is warm colors, and that picks up on the sun I have. So I think it's a much better painting after I added that on. And I also, you'll see that in the finished painting that I have at the end of this video. I darkened up a few areas on the crane. So you can see I used a little bit of salt to finish off this painting on the edges of this vegetation. And I'm very excited to see what you came up with. So wishing you happy painting and hope to see you soon.